Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session. We're going to kick off straight away because it's already past time, and I hate these things when they start late. So if people drift in afterwards, then that's fine. My name's Alistair Mackenzie. I'm a crossover journalist, I suppose. I started in the 80s as a radio travel editor, and I moved onto the internet about the millennium, actually. If any of you remember, I think one of the very first OTAs was called Travel Store, and I was writing their news for them. So, been there a long time, and been doing this sort of thing quite a lot. So what we're going to do today is, first of all, I'm going to introduce this fabulous panel. But before I do, and having introduced myself, let's just introduce you guys. Can I have a show of hands for how many of you are actually in tourism, by which I mean DMOs, that side of it as opposed to the travel industry side? Few, handful, okay. Excellent, good. And the travel side, travel agents, transport, that kind of stuff. Few of those. And dare I say it, bloggers themselves? Okay, so they know this stuff. Okay, let me start with the panel, and I think I'll probably take them in the order that they come here. First of all, Ross Borden, I think probably for many bloggers certainly will need no introduction. He's the founder of Matador Networks, which is very well known as a travel publisher online. And there isn't anything I think you don't know about this industry, really. So what I'd like to do is ask each of you in turn just to describe what you do and how you do it.
Cool. So, I run a company called Matador Network. We are almost exactly 7 years old. Started as a community, switched pretty quickly to publishing. We're now doing about 2 million uniques, which makes us one of the biggest travel publishers on the internet. We work with literally hundreds of bloggers, contributors, filmmakers, photographers from all over the world. 3 years ago, we started an education business called Matador U, where we teach online college-level courses in travel writing, travel photography, and filmmaking. That is growing rapidly. We're on track to hit 10,000 students this year. We're building a new product called Matador Access off of that to team up the best travel bloggers and the best DMOs and brands. But we are passionate about content, so we don't book trips or flights or hotels. We publish great travel content, and we want your stories. We work with an amazing group of people from all over the place, and rapidly more working with DMOs and brands, and so we're storytellers and happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Next to him, Melvin Boscher. I'm going to move behind Melvin, actually, because they tell me they've only got budget for one camera, so you won't see me on the video if I don't come up behind him. Melvin, this guy you do not want to be trading mine is bigger than yours with, because he has 48,000 Twitter followers, 4,800 Facebook followers. He runs Travel Dudes, and he's iAmbassador, and he's also the ROI online calculator. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, with starting, in my past I was a travel agent, so I traveled all my life. And it started like pretty much like all the other bloggers, going somewhere, starting an online diary, sharing the experiences online with the friends and family. And I realized that there's so much more than the just like sharing a diary. It's also the tips we get from the locals. So we said, okay, let's put travel tips onto Travel Dudes. Very soon we found out we are just like, we are not experienced travelers. There are so many more out there. Let's start a community. So that's like how it evolved. Starting a community, no one cared about it. So it was still me, the community, writing. But from there on, it got bigger and bigger. And right now, Travel Dudes is a kind of a community. There's not a very big factor about that. It's got blog character because I work with lots of bloggers together, but also with the industry. And the focus is like sharing travel tips. So we are actually an online guidebook, and we want to inspire people to travel, mainly independent. So from the background, it all started maybe as a backpacker myself, but now it's everything from backpacker to luxury to cruise to really everything. We just want to inspire people not to get like an all-inclusive deal and stay in your hotel. No, get out of there and experience the world. So that's like where Travel Dudes is right now. I still have big plans, but I will tell you about that at ITB. Then we, with my business partner, Keith Velvet Escape, we started iAmbassador, where we have a network where we work with the best 40, 50 travel bloggers worldwide, where we run campaigns for tourism boards, for brands, and where we promote them in different kind of stages, online, on our blogs. We produce videos, we care about photos, and it's always about quality content. And we are very strong, of course, in social media then. And then the last thing is what I've realized, and I think that is like also why I'm sitting here, is what I've realized is that the biggest problem the online media has, not the bloggers. I've started as a blogger and realized, hey, bloggers are always talking about how can we make money, how can we monetize it. And I was on a panel discussion at TBU in Umbria 2-3 years ago, and I've asked on the panel discussion, similar like here, I've explained and I said what we need is an algorithm that we can tell the industry that's what our value is. We are worth the money to invite us. And no one answered me.
So he went away and invented a tool to do it, which we're going to come on to, actually. So I'm going to stop you there.
Okay, sorry.
TBU, by the way, is the name behind this. It's Travel Bloggers Unite. It's a conference of bloggers, and that's where we were. Anna O'Reilly is Miss Luxury, really, but you're also, like me, a crossover. Anna was, I think, head of marketing for a huge media corporation. You were responsible for some very serious brands and big numbers. I saw something like 86 million followers. So it's so she comes from the dark side to the light side, or the light side to the dark side, whichever you want to do. She's either a Sith Lord or she's a Jedi Master. But Anna, tell us what you are.
Okay, I'm Anna Silva O'Reilly. I'm originally from Portugal, and during the last 15 years I've been developing my career in marketing, working for large American, mostly, corporations in both marketing and PR. 2 years ago, after I finished my MBA here in the UK, when I moved last time to marry Mrs. O, my name is Mrs. O around the world, that's my alter ego. I've actually developed an online persona as a marketing professional to understand how social media could work and how can actually build an online presence. I've been since to various courses at New York University, and speaking around the world, and actually created this little blog, which is purely based on my travels. I do focus on luxury. I do not call it luxury because it's the way I travel, but obviously for industry purposes now, and for targeting and positioning, we've actually classified as a luxury travel blog. I don't have the numbers as Melvin, for example, because there's a lot less people interested in what I do, or a lot less people can actually travel the way that I do. I like to travel, but my main goal with the whole blog was actually to build a community, which is what I've achieved both through Twitter and Facebook or Instagram, and actually provide a useful service. But what happened is amazing in terms of brands getting involved with me, is all the brands that I've been using for my whole life, so I'm actually very proud that I got to that stage. But in terms of community building, for me, is actually when now my readers tell me where to go. So it's very engaged community, and it's taking me everywhere, so I'm very pleased.
And we're very happy to have you here because you can speak from both sides, as it were, of the issue. I come at last to Issa, and I suddenly realised I should have done it the other way around because this is your first time doing this, and I think I've now been building up to you, so don't feel too nervous about it. Issa is the head of digital marketing for 4 communications. I was going to say 4 BGB, but BGB is the travel side of this. So he's Mr. Big. He does across the brands, not only travel. And take it from here. Tell us what you do.
So hello everyone, I'm Isa Kandil, and I work at 4 Communications and 4 BGB, heading their digital marketing team. We provide our clients with services like web development, online marketing, search engine optimization, online advertising, on search or digital networks. We have clients, as Alistair said, not only travelers, but we do provide services to tourism boards, travel agents, tour operators, and of course cruise operators. So I do have some knowledge in the travel market, but mainly I'm here today to talk a bit about my work with bloggers, especially on search engine optimization and digital marketing.
Okay. We're going to kick it around a little bit between us, but then quite quickly I'm actually going to put a microphone out there for you guys so that you can ask questions and get answers on things that you really want to know about. The fact that we're here on a Thursday in Platinum 1 and there's so many of you, I think is an indication of just what an important subject this is. It's one that has been cropping up for as long as I can remember, and for as long as I can remember I've been talking to tourism organizations and the like who say, well, how do we judge what we get back on this? And so I think we need to, first of all, perhaps establish what we mean by ROI, because it's probably a little bit more than just sales, which is what a lot of people would like it to be. Any of you guys like to pick up on that? Define ROI.
Yeah, I'd start. So, I mean, this is something that's, I think, goes even beyond blogging. But in the macro business world right now, I think there's a massive debate coming down from the C-level executives saying, we're spending millions of dollars on social media. What's the ROI on social? Is all this money that we're spending actually worth it? Is it converting to dollars on our balance sheet? And I think that, so this discussion we're having today is sort of a microcosm for that larger discussion. And I think that we should be careful as marketers to only define ROI as bookings, especially bookings the next day. I think that a lot of smart marketers are not looking at it as something that's going to convert immediately. So a lot of people that we work with, DMOs or big brands, they are trying to build relationships with consumers. They want an email address. They want a follower on Facebook. They want someone who even engaged with a piece of content that had their name on it. So I think as on the blogging side, it's really important when you sit down with a client or a destination or someone you're going on a press trip for to really understand and make sure that you're on the same page with that company or destination. Say, how do you measure it? Because ROI can be defined in a number of ways. And I personally am a fan of starting slow, measuring ROI from blogging and social media as the relationship that you get with the consumer, and then it's easier to sell. It's way easier to sell them something in the future after you have that relationship. So I think it's a mistake to say ROI needs to be in the form of a booking within a week. That's unrealistic, and you're going to be disappointed with the results over and over if that's the only way you define it.
Anna, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually love what you just said. I totally agree.
Me as well.
No, because and if you think from a PR perspective, if you think, we all, in your work, not my work anymore, but you've generated X millions of dollars in coverage. We all know that's not true, but it was great as a PR director in my case to go to my boss and say, wow, maybe my salary should be tied to that number, 25% at least. But it's true, and the marketing, or the advertising money, you don't know. So I don't know what's this crazy need now to actually tie a number to this part of all part of the marketing cycle. Social media is just not one thing. Everything that companies are doing should have a social component. So that's why I think it was great.
Because there are so many bloggers, and I know like many bloggers have a complete different background, and I don't know how many of you of the bloggers right now just started in the last year or whatever. When I talk, I think maybe we should just even tell what is ROI. I mean, it's called return of investment. So it's like how much, when you as a blogger, you want to work with a destination or with a brand, they have costs to invite you. They fly you in, they have something. So they have costs. And they want to see that you provide them a value that it's worth to work with you. So maybe they pay 5,000 euros and they want to see the value you create for them is 10,000. And that's the ROI is then 2. Right, guys? You're the marketing guys. So they want to see something that as a return.
But there'll be intangibles, which are even more important, and those you can't quantify.
So, and I think value can be everything. It's like you said, it's not just like one thing. It's not just like booking. It's so much. I mean, value can. I mean, when people think about value, first thing which comes into mind is always money. Of course, it's not. There are also many other ways how to work together with exposure, getting into a newsletter of your partner or whatever. Value is big.
But the big brands, I mean, Issa, you'll know from the big brands, they get this, don't they, already? I mean, they understand that we're not talking about just hard cash, we're talking about all those other things, engagement and so on.
Absolutely. I think with the travel market, the consumer doesn't immediately go and search for a trip or reads about a trip and then goes and converts. I think there is a journey, and thinking about blogging or social media as a direct marketing for travel is not the case. The case is that social media and blogging, they assist the consumer and of course the company to lead to a conversion. And there are some stats I have here. An average user, consumer travel user, searches 20 times on search engines in order to make a purchase. And they would be looking at everything like recommendations, reviews, stories, blogger stories, and ways of booking, maps. They would be searching everything regarding their trips. So social media here or blogging is going to assist that booking, not actually
be part of the mix.
Yes, absolutely. So when you think about cost of blogging or social media, it has to be a part of a percentage of the overall budget for the marketing strategy. Okay.
But here in this room, we've probably got one or two people working for DMOs on the tourism side, but working at local level. I mean, I mentioned earlier that I've been doing this for a long time, coming to WTM, and every year I meet up with one particular, he's a one-man PR company, and he specializes in UK destinations, and they're small ones, they're towns, and at the most counties, and so he's always dealing with those civic officers, the treasurer and all that kind of thing. And of course, they do want to know about if they lay out so much, they're responsible for quite a small budget, what they're going to get back. So that for him is very important. And so we divide this down into there has to be a hard-nosed return on investment cash aspect to these things, although it can be incredibly difficult to measure, as well as the other side of it, the KPIs that we've been talking about, key performance indicators, very fashionable word these days, and those are the things that we can measure online. Now, Melvin, what you've done is, I was talking about to him the other day, because what you've done with ROI Online Calculator is actually offer a very, very simple tool which works on AVEs. Now, AVEs is something that most people in the PR industry and marketing industry these days will turn their noses up and go, oh my God, well, that's very old-fashioned. But actually, a lot of people still like them. It's advertising value equivalence. It's literally, if this article was so many column inches in this particular newspaper, what would that be in the advertising equivalent if we put a banner ad in there? So what you've done is develop a tool that does that, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, the thing is, and with the journalists who who can't hear AVI anymore, I agree with them, but that's like working in print, because you have no idea what you are just holding there in print. You have no idea how many people read this article, so it makes no sense to put a value on it. But that's because when we talked just about that, how can we calculate something, we realized very quickly, first we had a laugh about the formula, then we thought, well, we work online, we know how many people read an article and how long they stay on the article and where they go from there. And so and suddenly this really old-fashioned, not good formula makes a lot of sense if you put this missing factor into it. And there are many factors into it. I mean, for example, if you have like Anna, a very niche-focused blog, the banner advertising you put into it is so much higher than on a very general site, just like in print as well. So the value is much higher, even if you have less visitors maybe on the site. Keith always got this example like fly fishing in Alaska, no one cares about that, but the guy going there, and then if you go onto that website, I mean, that banner and this website got a really, really big value.
Fly Fishing in Alaska is this mythical blog that Janice Waugh, who's a very well-known solo travel specialist, created in a discussion not unlike this some years ago, and we use it as a kind of a reference point these days. Because the thing about this mythical blog, Fly Fishing in Alaska, is it might only have 2,000 subscribers around the world, but if you are a chalet owner or one of those guys who flies the float planes out, or an outfitter, who sells fishing tackle, that kind of thing, these guys are absolutely the people you want to reach. So it's all about niche. Just coming back to ROI calculator, if you are a small DMO, if you are working for a town or a county or something like that, you probably, rather like my friend in the press office there, the PR, you probably do have people upstairs, perhaps they've been there for a while, old school, who are asking you hard questions about how much money they're going to get back. So you can go to your site, and it's not free anymore, is it? But it's
no, but as good as free. No, it's. I mean, for us, from the background, blogging, it was for us very important to have it for a price that also bloggers who just started it can use it. And anyone here in the room, just contact me via the website on the contact button. You get free calculations. I'm fine with that. The thing is, why we created this is not to have a money cash cow, whatever. It's like we realize that this isn't the problem of online media, not just blogging. And I was shocked that there was nothing similar out there. And I just realized, well, it's not. I'm not a marketing background. It was not my job to create something like that. But I want to bring the attention to the industry and to the bloggers to see, hey, this is like, well, sometimes it's worth to compare online to print. I know, for example, I've worked in a local newspaper, and they produced 30,000 newspaper every day, which is like close to 1 million newspaper a month. That's a lot of newspaper, but in the end it's just like 30,000 unique visitors, and every professional blogger reaches that after 2, 3, 4 years. The newspaper I've worked for, they had 50 people staff. Well, the blogger does that pretty much alone, so the blogger runs his own newspaper. And he's not able to afford maybe to make a full-time living, and that's like when I realized there's something totally wrong in the industry. And the industry, they created that problem themselves, because everyone was printing newspapers, and they said, okay, you know what, you can buy my ad, and you get internet for free on top of it, just if you buy the ad. So suddenly, the value of the internet, they pushed it down automatically. Now no one is reading newspaper anymore. I was on the Google show yesterday, and there was a statistic that there are more people reading on their mobile than on the newspaper nowadays. Yeah. So the value is actually online, but the price is not there. If you take a banner advertising, you start with a small blog, you get like 10, 12 CPM, that's like for 1,000 page views. If you compare that to print, if you would print prices into online, that would be 600. So there's such a big wider angle. Yeah.
My point is, what I want to try and do is make the point that actually a lot of people do ask about this tricky question about the money. How much money am I going to make back on this? And bloggers tend to go, oh, well, it's not all about money. It's about, it's about all these other things. It's about these KPIs. And so I just want to get across the idea that actually talking about money is not a dirty word. I'm going to borrow some data from a presentation yesterday, actually, at the Digital DMO debate, that I thought was quite interesting. This was a survey of some 40 city DMO CEOs, so tourist organisation bosses from European cities. It was by European Cities Marketing. Nicholas Hall presented it. Was anybody here from Digital Tourism Think Tank? Because I'm nicking your material, but anyway. Okay. And they were asking about how much importance they place on a number of KPIs, of key performance indicators. And I'm using this to illustrate what those KPIs are, rather than how much importance they attach to them. But the question was, okay, how important are the individual criteria for measuring ROI to your destination? First one was bookings through the website. Now, 17 gave that the top level of importance. That's very important, which I think is quite high when you consider that a lot of DMOs actually don't do sales directly through there. Exactly, that's the point. No, exactly. So I'm surprised at that, but that was the stat that came out. But I think these were quite large cities that were selling maybe tours or something like that on their sites. The second one was increased bookings for stakeholders. Now, that does make sense, because that's really what DMOs are there for. They're there for their stakeholders. So knowing that there is some kind of an increase as a result of this activity is a good thing. 13 thought that was very important, or 14 if you prefer. Overnight stays, the highest number, 27, gave that top importance. Again, you want to see the overnight stays go up. That's a good thing. But of course, you have to measure this stuff, and you have to try and track it back to the activity that you undertook. And day visits, 11 of those CEOs thought that was important. But then we turned to the KPIs, the web stats, the things we can measure. And I'm going to come to you on this in a moment, Isa. Increase in traffic to the city's website. That was the second highest level of top importance attribution they gave to that. Increase in followers on social media, distinct thing. Increase in engagement through the website. And increase in engagement through social media. And then the last one was newsletter sign-ups, and we were talking earlier about the importance of tracking and getting those all-important email addresses so you can follow people up. Now, those are the sorts of KPIs that we're talking about. When people start talking about KPIs, that's the kind of thing they mean, and it's stuff that it's crucially important to track, and you can do it quite well, can't you, Isa?
Absolutely. I think with tracking, there are different aspects that you have to keep in mind. There is the core analytics that you can find on Google Analytics, you can find on normal insights or Twitter or Facebook insights. But there are the indirect stats that people need to focus on, like the buzz that you are creating when you are when you're writing a blog or you mention a certain brand on social media. This buzz, this mention of a brand name, does encourage search engines to rank websites higher, and of course that will improve the ranking and improve the number of visits to a website. But all these can be tracked now. Using whether UTMs or certain tagging that you add to your website, to your article or your links that you share on Facebook or Twitter, and it can be made easily. There are lots of dashboards that you can automate all these reports for you and give you an idea of how a blog or a social media campaign affected your strategy and the traffic back to your website.
Okay. There are, let's say I'm a DMO and I'm thinking about an event that's going to involve bloggers and an element of social media, and I have an idea of the sorts of things I'm going to measure, but I simply can't afford the likes of you, Isa. So where do I go? Has anybody got any favourites? That Twit reach is always something that people like to track. Has anybody else got any favourites that they use? The PR companies tend to use, is it not compete, it's...
There are different types. So you have Radiant 6. It's a very powerful one, but it's not free. There is Social Mention. This is a free website that you can use it like search engines. Basically, just put the brand name and see what is the buzz about this brand name. And it's pretty smart. You can have exact phrase search or broad match search. There are very cheap services.
Where do people go to find out? If I'm a DMO and I'm thinking, look, I need to track this. I've got an idea of the things I want to do. I do want to get more engagement with the people who visit my neighbourhood. Where can they? Do you just go into the search engine and type analytics or something? Where do you find them? Is there a good?
I think search engine is one place, but I would depend on tech bloggers who give you in one article top 10, top 20 tracking or statistics tools, and many of them offer free tools. But I think that the best tool that you can use, of course you will need to follow some tutorials, but the best tools are the tools that can be integrated with Google Analytics. On Google Analytics, you can always create goals or conversion tracking. You can even track traffic that is going or coming from outside your website. So if, for example, you have a link that goes to your Twitter account, there is no way you can get the analytics reports of Twitter. But what you can do is add a tag on that link that will show you how many people actually click on your Twitter link and go to your profile. And in the same time, if you have a tweet this button on your website, again, this is going to go outside your website and you can track it, but you can actually know how many people clicked on it. And if you want, you can also add tags on the link that will be shared through your website. So you'll be able to see how many clicks are coming back to your website via this link that was shared by using these tools.
Not as simple as it used to be in the old days, because you flew a bunch of journalists down to your destination and they lazed around and soaked up the atmosphere and went home, and maybe a few months later you get a phone call from them asking some of the key things they've forgotten about because they lost their notebook and they haven't got any photographs. And it got printed, and there was one place to look for it. But with blogging and with social media, it starts off way ahead of the actual event itself, with people talking about it, particularly if they're using a hashtag, during the event and afterwards. And so you're tracking it all the way through that process. Let's talk a little bit about, let's say we're interested in the idea of inviting bloggers to our destination or to review our particular product. How do we go about, Ross, I'm going to ask you, how do we go about finding those bloggers and making sure we get the right ones?
Well, I would say that there are a couple things that you want to look for. One is obviously reach. There are tons of bloggers who are brand new to the scene, and many of them will probably become successful over time. But if you are investing money and you're sort of going out on a limb with your partners to invest their resources for a trip, or even you're actually putting a budget towards it, reach is extremely important, obviously. No matter how great the storytelling is, how perfect on brand they are, it needs to be seen by people. Otherwise, it's a waste. So I think that it's really important for them to just ask bloggers for their Google Analytics, just access or even a screenshot to see actually how many unique visitors they have, where those visitors are in the world. And then when it comes to the brand and sort of the fit and all that, I would encourage DMOs and brands to really just search the social web on Twitter and certainly on just Google around for people who are already producing great content on your destination, or already producing great content on, say, adventure travel or foodie travel or whatever it is that you actually want your brand to be associated with. So oftentimes the best people that are the best fit are not necessarily the rock star blogger, but someone who's right under your nose on your continent, or even in your country or your city, who are already doing the things that you're looking for, and it's easy for you to bring them in and more cost effective because you don't have to fly them from across the world to visit. So reach number one, and two, find the brand fit by Googling around, searching the social web for the things that you're already trying to be aligned with for your brand.
How many bloggers here have a media page or a media pack that you can download? Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say good, because grown-up bloggers have a media page, and you can go and look at it and see exactly who their audience is, who they're talking to, what level of education, what sex they are, where they mainly are geographically, all of those things. Anna, the importance of getting the right bloggers, though, is crucial, because we were talking about this a bit earlier, weren't we?
No, I actually don't have my media kit. I have a page called Working with Mrs. O, which is right next to Contact, and you'd think that before people press contact, they will actually go to that page, but they don't. So what I do, because I get now about 150 emails a day, of which 148 are completely useless. So, but I always respond to all of them. So what I do is actually detail the way I work with brands. Could be editorial, could be social media, could be consulting, could be this, and do not offer me free content, all those things. So in my case is I explain that, but I then those who are still interested, you hope they contact, and that's what I do. But I love it. One thing I always say in this speech is read my blog before you contact me. I'm not into camping, and if I told you how many requests I have to go hiking somewhere, Mrs. O does not hike. It's very clear. But the other day I got an amazing PR email, a PR agency who knows me very well. He said, Mrs. O, would like you to go to the Four Seasons in Hampshire and drink gin because the New Bombay Safari Distillery is next door. And I said, can I go there now? But it's about being relevant and knowing who you are. I'm not going to do a low-cost airline to a place that costs £500 a night. It makes no sense.
And good bloggers will also, they'll identify that niche, they will turn down. You can recognize a good blogger because if you give them something like camping, they'll say no. No, if you want me to go cruising, no, I'm a rail blogger or whatever it might be. So how do you find them? There's lots of different ways, but the general rule of thumb is ask another blogger.
I just wanted to say,
bloggers are notoriously non-competitive in the sense that, in the old days with traditional journalists, we all had to try and, what we had to do was provide something unique for our editors. So you go out on a group press trip with 5 of you, and you'll come back with the same story. You'll be given short shrift by your editor. So you'd always see journalists disappearing off on their own little storyline that they wanted to get. Bloggers aren't competitive, and they will tell you. They'll say, oh, well, listen, if you want to know about a particular subject, archaeology, Thomas Dowson, he's your man, because that's what he writes about. So do ask bloggers for other bloggers. And the other thing I was going to say is think outside the box. We've been talking about travel bloggers, and travel bloggers are wonderful human beings, but if you have an angle for a destination or for your particular venture that is specialist, then think in terms of finding a blogger who actually writes about, military history or fishing, or find food bloggers if you want to talk about food, or fashion bloggers, or mum and pop bloggers. You don't have to think all the time in terms of travel bloggers.
But I think what is also good with asking, first of all, I think it is very important that you look also deeper. For example, if you find a blogger who might be of interest, go on his Twitter stream and see if he's just like pushing his own content, or does he interact, does he reply, things like that. But I think also we have all those forums. We run the iAmbassador network, we know a lot of people, but we also have the GBN, the Glow, and so get onto one of the communities and ask them. And they also know it's not just like nowadays, not anymore just about bloggers. There are also people, professional Instagrammers with 35,000 people just on followers on Instagram. And it's very hard maybe already because it's such a big hype about blogging now. And I think you also have to be careful, because I already know that sometimes there are also negative experiences already, that there are bloggers buying false followers and stuff like that. So you have to know to work with. So it's not just exposure, it's also quality.
If you're sitting on your hands at the moment and thinking, oh God, I really want to know about this aspect of something we've talked about, then the mics are coming to you pretty soon. But just before we go there, I was just going to ask you guys, have you got one or two really good case studies, examples of where you've been involved with a marketing campaign and it's worked for all the right reasons, and maybe some that you've learned from that didn't work for the wrong reasons?
We're doing a bunch now, but I'll give an example of when it was hardest to sell our clients on content, and that was 3.5 years ago. Because now everyone loves content, it's driving success in social, people are more comfortable with blogging, they understand the SEO benefits. Now sort of content is finally coming around. But 4 years ago, when we started monetizing our traffic at Matador, everyone just wanted banner ads. And after doing a few campaigns, I just realized it was if all you're doing is banner ads, you're completely wasting your money. It's a crappy model. 1 out of every 1,000 banners in the travel space is clicked on. I think a lot of those are probably by accident. How many people are buying a flight or a tour package from that one click? I would say almost no one. So we still do run a large display business, but it's a complement. The centerpiece is the content. And so we were working with the destination of Montana, state of Montana tourism in the United States. And they were the first ones who really listened to me with this content. And I said, what do you guys want people to know about Montana that you think they might be missing right now? And they knew exactly, they wanted the fly fishing and the local food and farmers markets and the spas and the zany nightlife and the characters and all these little towns. And so we designed a suite of content around those. We found journalists and bloggers born and raised Montana, based in Montana, who really knew those subjects inside and out. And we released a suite of content, and that was the first deal that really proved our concept. And they were just thrilled with the results. And I think one thing that bloggers should always think about when they're pitching a destination is not just the overnight ROI, but longevity is extremely important. If they bought 20 million banner impressions, or they take out 2 full-page ads in an outside magazine or a newspaper, that stuff's in one day, gone the next. Even 20 million banner impressions, it's going to run out at some point. And after that, you really have very little to show for it. If you, a lot of our content did very well on social from that Montana campaign, and now 4 years later, right? A lot of it is still ranking on Google. If you Google like backpacking Montana, number one result, Matador, with links to all of their partners, and that's who funds DMOs, is all the partners. So that is something that bloggers, when you guys go out into the marketplace, you're talking to DMOs, you're talking to brands, don't ever forget that your content lives forever on the web. That's an extremely important selling point for you, and it's one that's really will resonate with them because it's true. So, I can create buzz on Twitter. I've got this audience. I'm building a brand. That's all great, but tell them something that they're making a long-term investment in content that's going to live forever on the web, and I guarantee you they'll be like, all right, that actually makes a lot of sense.
If you've got a blogger, you've got them for life, basically, unless you've done something terrible and you didn't get on at all. But it is one ROI that actually never gets talked about, and I think it's a very important one, and I wish that more DMOs would recognize it. And that's, I'm going to raise it, sorry, I'm going to ask myself, in effect, Alistair, have you got any sort of odd KPIs? Well, yes, I do, actually. This one is training. And by that I mean, if you have bloggers come and stay with you and visit your country or visit your local area, it's a chance to see them in operation that many people don't get. I did a thing with Canadian Tourism a little while ago. They had about 40 end travel providers, people who are running bed and breakfasts and things like that. And Steve Keenan and myself, Steve runs the Social Perspective program here, were invited to go along, and he talked to them about getting their clients to make video and to make content for them. And I was talking about bloggers and social media. And I suddenly realized just how much they didn't know. And if you have a blogger in your house, if you're staying in your B&B, and you get to have supper with them or something, you can see how they're working. You can see that they're live all the time. Some of them have particular skills. Some of them, are Nyenke, who I saw earlier on, is, the go-to girl on Pinterest. If you want to know anything about Pinterest, she will tell you. Cohen McKenzie is brilliant at Facebook and Facebook advertising. People who are specialists in Instagram and all of those things that many end users don't know about. So I think that training is actually part of the ROI, is actually rewarding and returning on investment, because those are skills that you can then pick up and run with yourself, and so can your stakeholders.
I actually do that a lot. So before Mrs. O arrives to a hotel, for example, destination, Anna arrives 2 days before, and we actually do some consulting, social media training or marketing training. Yeah, that works a lot.
It's very powerful. I was going to ask you, Anna, have you got any good examples of...
Yes, I've got some from tiniest companies to huge companies, but I always love using Avenue Story, which is a very small company. I don't know if anyone is here from there. Which worked earlier this year, and they do luxury apartment rentals in Paris and London. So we did a social media campaign. We had a beautiful apartment, view of the Eiffel Tower, 400 euros a night. We did a social campaign around my stay, and then when I do a social media campaign, I only post like 6 to 8 weeks afterwards, because people know the brand, know I've done this, and then it's time actually to have a rest. When I posted, 3 or 4 hours later, I got a call from the CEO saying we had 4 bookings at 7,000 euros each. And I said, well, I'm not allowed to make those bookings without at least having dinner with my husband. So it's fun. So obviously, 8 months later, I'm now doing a lot of consulting work for them. But even this week, we had an email from someone who said, I read this on Mrs. O's blog. Can I please have my free airport transfers and my bottle of champagne on arrival? So there's a way of tracking. And we know we had lots, and not immediately, but we actually did, which is quite fun. I don't know how, but it did. But in terms of other brands, if I stay with a hotel chain, for example, 4 times in 4 weeks, you will notice I've worked with a big chain this year, which most people, everyone's heard of, but no one has considered staying with them. And I will not name it. But
why not? You're working for them. You can.
No. It's just a different thing. And what people said was, oh my God, I haven't thought of them for like 20 years. So that was the whole point. For example, I'm doing soon, in 2 weeks, you'll see a project with American Express and Starwood, and it's a launch of their Amex SPG card, and their PR agency came to me, said, you've been with Amex 10 years, you've been with Starwood for 10 years, you understand the story, just tell us the story. And so this is the brands I want to work with. I'm very fortunate to, but because they know me, they got to know me, this takes a year in the making, and understanding how I work. And for me, what they want me to purely said, how do you do this? And so it's a great way for brands to engage.
Okay.
We'll see the results of those, but I'm actually quite confident.
Since the blogging world took off, it's been a fascinating period because bloggers have been really sort of making up the way that the industry works by themselves and for themselves. And one of the interesting aspects of that is that some bloggers have actually got together and put together little teams, little cooperatives, marketing cooperatives, to talk to DMOs, find out what they want, what they need in terms of engagement or brand awareness or whatever it may be. Maybe some of the physical things. Do you need more content for your site? Do you need more photographs, stuff like that? And there are a number of those. One of the early ones is iAmbassador, and I'm sure that Melvin will in a moment talk about that, but I'm going to open the questioning up, so I'm hoping that one of you guys will pick up on it and we'll run with it. But I should, in that sort of BBC way, I should mention that there are others as well, as Navigate Media, who are mostly sort of North American. There's Transit Media, which is mostly German bloggers, but the Germans are so talented, like Melvin, they all speak, some cases, multiple languages. So Transit will soon become an international multi-language blogger cooperative. There's an eco one, Brett Love's Eco Adventures group, I think. And there was even one that was announced, or at least formed, and is still in formation this week here at World Travel Market, which is called Travelator, and it's a group of bloggers who are looking particularly at the sort of the quality end of the market and for older UK travellers. That's their kind of speciality. And these guys are going out and talking to DMOs and to travel industry providers and saying, what is it you need? Do you want because what are your campaign ambitions? Can we perhaps work something together? And then they will handle a lot of that activity about measuring the ROI. Okay, so let's go, everybody. Let's do something useful. Here we go. Gentleman here with his hand up, middle. I promised the mic guys I wouldn't send you from the front to the back to the front to the back, so I'll try and be organised.
Hello. Yeah, I've got a question.
Could you identify yourself? And
sure. I'm Robert Costa, work at Trainline International. Wouldn't it be much simpler to measure it just by integrating, say, bloggers to DoubleClick, like making it easier for marketing people to say, all right, write this blog for me. Can you put this tag on the site and just always be there and then do it? That's the way most marketing companies look at ROI, is just through them platforms. So wouldn't it be simpler just to integrate with the DoubleClick's Atlas and then just always be on there, and then you'll be part of the funnel really quickly and easily? Or is that something that already happens?
Sounds like a Ross question.
I mean, yeah, there's tons of ways. The only thing I would say is that, no matter how something is getting tracked, first of all, someone mentioned it, Google Analytics, we use it all day, every day. It's extremely powerful. As a blogger, you absolutely must have it. As a marketer, you absolutely must use it. Anyone who's not on Google Analytics literally on a daily basis is missing out on opportunities, and it's super easy and intuitive to use. DoubleClick and tracking links and Bitly links, like all of these things are in the toolkit. The only thing I would say is sometimes someone will come from somewhere, or they'll share something, even if they use the Bitly link you want them to use, but then a bunch of their friends see that on their Facebook page and they use the normal link. So you're missing out on that measurement. I mean,
so mine wasn't a link, it was serving it as an impression. So that's the problem. When you track links, it gets really convoluted. It's really hard to see the path.
But you were asking, if you want to do all of this, you want to gather the benefit of all this activity, be it one blogger or two or three, why don't they do it on your site rather than on theirs? Is that roughly? Okay.
Yeah, we do that a lot of times with our campaigns. They want a pixel firing, or they want it. I mean, that's pretty standard for anyone who's really paying attention to their KPIs, and they want the impressions. They want a third party to verify just how many impressions it got. I think that's pretty common.
A lot of this, Melvin, is planning as well. I mean, the moment the idea enters your head, look, I think we are going to go with this. We're going to do something. We're going to do some kind of campaign. The very first thing you should do is have a hashtag, because the hashtags apply across the board anyway now. They go, the same hashtag will work on Facebook as it will on Google Plus, as it will on Twitter. So the hashtag is the start point, isn't it, Melvin? And planning it all early.
Well, I think what is very important to have a unique hashtag. For example, when you run a campaign and you just call it like the city or the country, everyone is using it, and well, how can you track then that's your success and your reach or not? So you need a unique hashtag, and then if you're a bit smarter, you make it into a campaign itself using that hashtag. For example, we had that with Cape Town. So the idea was to use the bloggers to promote, to use the bloggers that the Cape Townians promote their destination. So we worked with the traditional media together. They wrote, we had radio interviews, TV news, and all the traditional stuff, and they said, here are the bloggers. Go on Twitter, use Love Cape Town, and tell them what to do. And Love Cape Town, I mean, everyone loves Cape Town, especially the Cape Townians. And I've got lots of followers on Twitter, but my reply timeline I was always able to handle, but in that week, no control.
I'm just wondering, Isa, how do we set those KPIs? I mean, we were talking earlier about the importance of establishing them, saying, okay, well, we want to see an increase in the amount of engagement. But is it possible to sort of set numbers? I mean, by how much? What would be a good increase on would it be 12% increase on the engagement over what kind of period? How do you?
I think before we talk about this, what needs to be agreed is...
I hate those before we talk about these things, don't you? Give me numbers.
It's basically agreeing how to measure the KPIs, because you can't say I want a 10% increase in the followership of my social media campaigns, or I want to have an increase in my Google ranking. But as you asked a minute ago. You can ask the blogger to add a tracking code or tracking URL on their website, but not everybody is going to follow it. So the problem with that is part of this traffic or these results are not going to be included in this calculation. And then if you are going to measure the ROI and say, okay, well, we didn't really reach the 10%, there is a problem. We might have reached the 10% because not everything is tracked. Bloggers are not using the tracking ID. They're removing the tracking ID because it's long. It makes the link longer. Or some other people, they don't remember the hashtag, or they don't want to use the hashtag because there is not enough space in this 140 characters that are allowed on Twitter, for example. So I think in order to, first of all, measure ROI or set a KPI, we have to allow for a reserve. So we say, we are going to increase your followership by 10%. However, there is an error rate of probably 2 or 4%, give or take. So I think with KPIs, with setting KPIs, it is possible, but being, following numbers all the time might deviate from the main concept, which is receiving the buzz, increasing the ranking. So sticking to one KPI is not always the answer.
Yeah, he's an SEO. He can't help it. He's telling you that this precise science is imprecise, and there's
absolutely unquantifiable.
but just in ballpark terms, I mean, would it be if you put on a campaign? What's the biggest sort of return that somebody's seen? Anybody seen their engagement levels leap up by 50% or 60%, or what would be really spectacular? So a hand twitched there for a minute. Go for it. Yeah, there's a mic just behind you.
Hello, I'm George, and I represent hotels in Crete. All I want to add is, with a very low level social media use of the hotels that I represent, mostly through Facebook, I just want to add that I haven't measured the ROI in detail, but repeating customers on one-time customers showed a great interest, which I haven't measured, but it has definitely made a very positive impact on these hotels, by using not exactly blogging, but just Facebook. Yeah. So anything
content.
So anything that goes into detail, I can vouch that it has a positive effect. Yeah. That's all I wanted to say.
I'm surprised that Isa hasn't leapt on me and said, well, if you've only got 2 visitors now, that if you suddenly get 4, then that's 50%. But so it just depends on the number you started off with. Anybody else got any questions? Some kind of practical question that we can answer and make it all work for you. Here goes Michael Turtle.
Hello, my name is Michael Turtle. I run the travel blog Time Travel Turtle, and I'm a member of iAmbassador as well. I just want to ask about the value of bloggers as a person who spends a certain amount of time doing a certain amount of work rather than this sort of ethereal idea. When we had print journalists doing travel articles for magazines, they got paid a fairly standard rate, whether it was 50 cents a word or $1 a word, whatever it was. We knew how much a journalist was worth. When people work on these sort of collective campaigns we're talking about, there seems to be a standardized fee starting to be agreed on of a few €100 a day or a few £100 a day, whatever it may be. But then you have people writing for online publishers, places like Matador, and I don't know your exact rate, but I know it's quite low. We're talking, for other places other than Matador, maybe £30 or $30 for an article, which takes as much time as one of those print ones did. So my question is, where do you see the future for the worth as almost in an hourly rate, or is that the old world? Are we not talking about that kind of thing anymore?
You mean, what's the ROI for bloggers?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Well, I mean, for us, if you just sort of what we call like a walk-on, we don't know you, we've never worked with you, we're not really familiar with your work until you linked us to your blog, it is super low to start. That is, and I think there are a lot of, it's almost like the bigger you get as a media company, the lower the rate for those sort of people. However, that said, we are finding that when we can really pay bloggers or writers or photographers or especially filmmakers really well, where there is a budget to create content, or it's part of a campaign, or somehow it's helping us make money, we can always pay the content contributor a lot more. So our scale slides, and it slides from $25 for an article into the thousands of dollars for even a day rate. One thing that I think that I know for sure we're paying a lot more for, and we're seeing this as a trend in the blogger market, is if you're sort of what we call like a triple threat, if you can do video, if you take great photos, and you're a solid writer, that's extremely important to brands, destinations, and publishers like Matador. So, I mean, it's hard to make a blanket statement on the ROI of bloggers in general, but I'll tell you that if you can produce great videos and you're a solid photographer and you can bring all of those things to the table in one trip or one piece of content or even a suite of content that you're doing, that makes you way more marketable and a lot more valuable for the work that you do. That's
as much as anything else, that's assessing the value of an individual blogger, because we're talking about what a blogger might expect if they were going to provide content or do a campaign for a particular client, or do it through a group such as yourselves, or working even with you, Anna. Yeah. Or do you only ever work alone?
I usually do work alone, and I have because is Mrs. O, so Mrs. O goes with her husband. Okay. To places, and Mrs. O actually is launching a project with 3 friends, so we're going to be, it's going to be called For Play, and For Play go to places. So it's going to be a lifestyle thing, travel related, but we obviously working with fashion brands, lifestyle, so very different. But Mrs. O, when she does a social media campaign, she does not work for £100 a day. And sorry, if you want to use my platforms, and you want to be exposed to this audience, that's not what it costs. I can work on pure editorial basis, but that's what you get. And obviously the editorial is never compromised, but if I'm actually doing work during the day, we have to pay my daily rate. And I'm very clear about that.
I think
Melvin,
I think what is very important when we talk about bloggers, for me, there are like 3 kinds. The hobby bloggers, like everyone starts, sharing experiences. Then there are the semi-professional bloggers who want to make an income. And then there are the professional ones. Talking about professional ones, then you really need to provide, you run a business. To run a business, you have to invest maybe money, time, whatever. You can do with Matador, you can do all those courses. I know, for example, the New York online video school, where you can really learn how to shoot videos. Bloggers can't expect to start traveling because they saved some money for 1 year, and then, hey, I want to get paid now. It's a profession.
I'm a blogger, pay me, give me stuff.
Yeah. And so it's like, to run a business, you need like 2, 3, up to 5 years to really get into something. You have to invest. And then there's so much you have to do for that.
Tell us how iAmbassador works, or at least just talk us through one of the campaigns. You've done Mauritius recently, you did Cape Town. Pick one, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, we work also with destinations, so we talk to them, what are they looking for, and they always come
How far ahead do you do that? When does all this kick off?
I mean, we are happy to get like a lead of 4 months, or sometimes it's even less. But the funny thing is, they always come to us with very, very crazy ideas, like to promote Mauritius as an adventure destination. Well, it's honeymoon and luxury. But in the end, I went skydiving, quad biking, canoeing, all that different kind of stuff.
But not just you. You sent a team there.
No, yeah. And so we see what they want to do. And then, because we are in this industry for such a long time, and we know all the bloggers. And if we don't know
long time
them,
in blogger terms, okay?
Yeah.
Internet terms, long time.
4 or 5 years, yeah. No, and then we select the bloggers, and if they are not directly in the iAmbassador team, we know we can find them. We had, for example, with Mauritius, a kitesurf blogger, a golf blogger, always focus also on travel. And then then it, of course, also depends like on the budget. But for example, we had in South Africa, we had like 15 bloggers, and we let them go through all the provinces in 10 days in 4 different itineraries. And the nice thing is, because it's social, it's not just like one is tweeting something, one is writing something. It's this interaction, and also with the people there who follow this campaign. And suddenly, well, we reach in that week, 10 days, like I think 4 million people just via Twitter, 3 million on Facebook, and I think the AVE we created, if they wanted to have a similar exposure just on advertising, I think it was like 3 million euros. It's all in our case studies on the website.
But take us just through, I mean, because this kind of project starts probably here at World Travel Market as much as anywhere else. I mean, you might start talking with a national tourist office or whoever it might be at this point, and then, as you say, sometimes it might be quite a quick thing. But do they usually know what they want? I mean, or do you suggest things to them? How does that?
Well, it's actually not that quick. It's building relationships, and there's trust in that. And because this is a new industry, and like the topic, what is the ROI and the value? Because it is a new industry, we still have to find it and to explain and educate it. So it's not that here you come and you start a campaign, you meet each other over 1-2 years, you write emails, and I think there's much, much more behind that.
And is the industry learning from examples? I mean, seeing events like Mauritius, seeing events like the Navigate Media trip to Finland, for example. Is the industry? Are you guys aware of that? Hands up, anybody who's heard of any of these campaigns where groups of bloggers have gone off to yes, well, Keith would, because he's Melvin's partner. Though, so put your hand down. But there are quite a lot of these activities going on, and they're going to grow because, as I was saying earlier, there are more groups of bloggers who are beginning to put together sort of specialist teams who can go out there. One thing I was going to say is that iAmbassador, I think, have done something very clever just recently. They've tied up with a South African analytics company called Brandseye, and now they come bundled. So if they come along to a DMO and say, start talking about a campaign, coming bundled with all that expertise, all those bloggers, the kinds of stuff they might do, reaching agreement on KPIs, what it is they want to achieve, is actually the stats that track it all as well. And that comes as a kind of a basic package. But if you wanted to have more material for for the grown-ups at the national office as opposed to your city office, let's say, then you can, I think you can pay directly Brandseye to monitor that and go on monitoring it for as long as you like. And you get a little, this is stuff that your bosses will love, because they can pull out their iPads, and I think there's a Brandseye kind of dashboard, isn't there, with lovely colourful graphs and things that'll track all this stuff in real time. So you can
I think the good thing is, and I think that is also where it will still go. I mean, so far in the past we used tweet reach and these kind of things, which are just like for the hashtags and only for Twitter. But now with Brandseye, for example, it's Facebook, it's YouTube. They go on to all onto the website, and they put all that kind of content out there together. And I think because it's not just one, and there's this interaction. I mean, if I just tweet something, it's worth nothing if no one reacts to that. And so there's you have to see the whole package all together.
Going to put you out of a job, Isa.
Well, no, not really. I think you know, with more intelligent tracking systems and analytics system, there is always more to be done to actually improve on it and include more and more networks. I mean, lots of network of monitoring systems, they still don't include Google Plus as one of the social media networks or Pinterest or Instagram. They still track Facebook and Twitter only. So I think there will be still more to come to the analytics. It's still early stages, and I think this is a very, very good step forward. And I think, you know, in combination with Google Analytics, this is giving you a holistic reporting system to give you as a blogger information on return on investment, and it would give also the corporate that is using your services a very good idea on how much return they are getting on this.
I think what is important, it will never be perfect. Like you said, it's very easy to miss something. If you have a hashtag and someone tweets me back and just includes it, it's gone. I think I always get the question is like, okay, how many people do you get me into the destination afterwards? And I can't tell. We get the feedback in the comments, we get the tweets. It's now I'm looking for to book my flight right now and stuff like that. So we get this interaction, of course.
Especially to a place like Mauritius.
Or like you, and also like you said with your example, 4 bookings overnight and stuff like that.
But that's never happened.
Yeah. But you can't track it. But then you have to keep in mind, okay, how did you track that in the past in traditional media?
Yeah, it was impossible. In fact, the only time I ever heard of it being done directly was I sent a journalist off, this was a radio journalist, off to Finland, and he was in the domestic terminal at Helsinki, and he heard some English voices, and he got talking to them, and they were a middle-aged couple. And he said, "Where are you going?" And they said, "Arkaslampalo, right up on the north border of Finland." And he said, "Why are you going there?" And they said, "Well, we heard this wonderful report about it on Classic FM radio," and it was him. It was his program. He'd done it a year earlier and been up to Arkaslampalo, and that's the only time I've ever known anybody get a direct confirmation of a sale. So
I think it's also the industry who should get into to start working on that. I mean, it's not just ask your customers and ask them, hey, where did you find out about us, or where did you book? But not just like booking, even more. Did you also see us maybe on Twitter, on Facebook? It's not just like the one point. Put out questionnaires out there. But like I said, I mean, out of a blogger point of view, sure, I want to help you and to create your bookings, but keep in mind that I'm not a travel agent. I'm on there are bloggers who are also helping you with affiliate and things like that, but I think, and that's also what you do, we inspire people. So we are very much at the front, and with the tracking and where we go in future, there will be more ways to track things. But yeah, I think there's much more.
Yeah, it will get bigger, because I mean, a lot of you will have been here over the last 4 days, or maybe some of you hadn't been in for the full duration, but you will have seen all those talks about big data. Big data is coming, and it's very important. It's a way to really build engagement with your customers and your clients, and this sort of thing gives you that data. So there's only ever going to be more of it, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, Google Analytics launched a new report. If you look at the bottom of the report, conversions, it gives you information now on assisted conversions, which means conversions that were caused by more than one campaign or more than one source. So if that person who booked came to the website first through Twitter, and then came again through search engine, and then through your blog, you will be able to see that on Google Analytics. You will see how many campaigns actually led to, or how many sources actually led into a booking or a newsletter sign up, any kind of conversion that you set up on the website. And additionally, just recently, Google launched through DoubleClick demographic information about users. So you can now segment your analytics by gender, by age, by interest, by what was their journey all about? Were they looking for trips, or they were looking for something completely different? And through that, you can do remarketing target those users who were interested, first of all, in a certain topic through their research. Second of all, who visited certain pages on your website or on your blog, and they didn't convert yet. So you can retarget these people and make them convert again, or have a go on trying to make them convert again.
I'm delighted that we've been so specific and answered all of your questions clearly about the subject of bloggers and ROI. This is your last chance because we're going to close down. So if you've got something that we haven't asked, then now would be the moment to do so. So he has, yes. Of course, the other assumption is that everybody by now, midday Thursday, is so completely knackered, their brains are dead, and so their feet, so they can't stand up.
I was speaking before again. I'm from Crete, and I represent, as I said, hotels. What is my interest is, as small hotels, to boost the basically sales for the companies, and to boost bloggers' activity and all the social media activity towards the hotels I represent is my goal. Is there any other hotel or similar business which has successfully done so for me to read and study and follow, to see what they do, and to approach bloggers that want to, write about us?
Yeah. Good question.
And of course,
a case study,
and of course, pay for it, not for free.
Yeah. A case study, examples of where.
I can only speak for example. I can speak about the Four Seasons. They do a lot of work with a select number of bloggers. So they work, I'm going to say, with maybe between 5 and 10 around the world. And we do all this on an editorial basis and on, we do social media support. But for example, I've been to 5 Four Seasons this year, maybe 5 last year, and I will go to 5 next year. So clearly what I'm doing really works for them because I keep going back for more. And sometimes, for example, the experiences are not good, and I will write about them. So for them, it's actually, when I say they're amazing, they really are. So, for example, there's continuity, and I know, for example, they work with 3 or 4. I can think of about 4 or 5 people that I know that they work on a regular basis, and obviously it works for them. Other hotels, it depends on the chains. Some chains are really all over the place. They really don't know what they're doing, which is true. Some of them are, for example, like Sofitel is really trying to get into that. I've done some work with them last year as well, repeatedly, not just one visit. And this weekend, for example, I'm going back to the same hotel, so it's not like the relationship doesn't end when you do a project. Actually, hotels will want to have you back at the same hotel.
Yeah, we've talked really about sort of one-off campaign events, but actually
it's not even the brand; it's actually the same hotel.
Yeah, quite a lot of organisations actually build a permanent relationship. G Adventures would be a classic example. Visit Britain and others, where they have teams of super bloggers. Mike Person, and we got one on your feet over here. Sorry. So there are other ways of doing it, and by building on a small scale, having maybe 1 or 2 bloggers who work with you on a regular basis and maintain that. But otherwise, examples because you're talking about quite a small. I'm trying to think. Tune hotels are very much across social media at the moment. Anybody else got any other bloggers aware of small hotel group, regional, local hotel groups who have got good blogging programs? Social media programs? No, okay, there aren't any. Sorry, that's the question. Yes.
2 things. Firstly, you've got 5 minutes.
Oh, 5, okay.
Secondly, Palladium Hotels in Spain.
Right.
They do good stuff with social media.
Palladium Hotels in Spain, yes. There you go. Okay. Yes, lady there.
Hello, my name is Angela Lansbury. I'm a travel writer specialising in honeymoons and destinations.
And you've been doing it for a while as well. Yes.
You've seen me before.
Yes, I've seen you before.
In the olden days, there was a big distinction between advertorial and editorial and various rules, and I know Google has come in and stepped on people who didn't make a distinction. Can you tell me what's happening now?
Could somebody go out and ask Oliver if we can have the next hour as well, please?
It's Oliver outside, just close the door.
This is a continuously asked question. Who wants to tackle this one? Okay, Anna.
See, I'm very black and white. If someone hires me to do something, it'll be a social media campaign where you show pictures of where you are while you're there. My editorial is you can't buy it. For example, I will do like sponsored posts with some brands, but you'll know it's not It's not about a trip I did. It would be a product or something. And it's very black and white, and my readers always know. And I always do a disclaimer. And if I had anything for free, I also disclaim it at the bottom. So I don't only write about things I got for free, as you can possibly imagine.
Ross will have a view on this, Angela, but the answer is that, yeah, it has changed, and it's changed significantly. In the old days, we as journalists were pure as the driven snow. You know, we were Gandalf in white robes. We were Woodward and Bernstein. But now, our only job then was just to protect the sanctity, the ethics of what we did. That was it. And we used to fend off. You remember, those salespeople and the boss who wanted to do some outlandish promotion with somebody. That's all we ever did. That's changed now with the blogging community, who are self-publishers. So Keith over there, for example, has to be a publisher. He has to be Rupert Murdoch, and he has to be as pure as the driven snow.
I think he's better than Rupert.
And the best...
I think he's better than Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah. But the answer is each blogger sets their own standard on this. But one of the things that's been very interesting about it is that the one thing that bloggers have brought to the whole process is transparency. Bloggers are amazingly transparent about everything they've got. American bloggers have to be. The FDA has this ruling that you have to, if you're a tech blogger and you've been given a radio to review or something like that, you have to declare that at the bottom of your, or at the top actually, I think they say. And even if you tweet about it, it used to be you could get away by putting hashtag SPON as in sponsored. Yeah. And now the FDA are saying, no, you have to actually declare it in real words. Out of 140 characters, that's a real burden. But so the result is that, for example, a little while back, that BBC World Service programme, Gateway, is it? Did a kind of an expose on travel bloggers. They took a lot of footage at ITB on one of the networking sessions where everybody was talking to PRs about really sort of talking about their next trips and the kind of things they might do, and was in a BBC sort of way was really looking down their nose at them. But actually, the interesting thing was that they were completely transparent, as several of them made, and yet that same week I read a national newspaper, I won't name them, but there is a site that makes spoof headlines for them in the UK, that I saw a 1,000-word traditional travel feature on Albania, written by quite a well-known travel journalist and all the rest of it. Nowhere, anywhere did it say that it was, he was a guest or it was any kind of supported activity, and yet I spotted the tweet from the PR who organised the trip saying, "Cool, didn't we do well on that piece on the Mail?" So I would argue that bloggers, when it comes to the ethics, are actually marginally better than we used to be as traditional journalists.
I think your question. Yeah, and here in this circle, like with professionals, I think you can't stress that enough. Yeah. And there you can spot the professional bloggers. Yes. But you have to keep in mind the readers, in the end, they don't even care about the disclaimer because they care about quality content.
Yeah, exactly. I think we have the same thing at Matador. It's right up there. If there's a budget used to produce content, you see it right there. And I always argue, and I think a lot of our clients have been really receptive to this, is that they should want their brand there. It's not... it shouldn't be the secret. Then they should want to link to their site and the full branding at the top of the article, because people, if the content kicks ass, no one really cares. We're just, as journalists, bloggers, ambassadors of Matador and of iAmbassador, we're just putting talented storytellers into a cool place and having them showcase the best of that destination. So there's nothing to be ashamed about or worried about that the end reader will penalize you or look down on you for that. I think all they want from you is transparency. And I completely agree. If you look at the top glossy travel magazines, you see this article with absolutely nothing about transparency, and then you flip the next page and it's a huge ad for the same place, and you're like,
Nat Geo have just been slammed for that. It's a fashion photo feature on Colorado.
It's rampant in traditional media. So I think, if anything, us in the new media sector are way ahead of the curve with that stuff, and it's all about transparency, and you'll be respected by the clients for that, and you'll be respected by your readership.
On that positive note, ladies and gentlemen, this extraordinary panel.